Welcome everybody to the Massachusetts Real Estate Mastermind podcast. I'm your host, Tom Caffarella, and I would like to welcome Josh Mente onto the podcast today. Josh, what's going on?
Not much, Tom. Thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
Thank you for jumping on. And you've got a pretty impressive background. I know in different shows we've kind of talked about individual agent production, but you're somebody who has taken it to the next level. You've got a team. Can you give us a little bit of a background on what your current team looks like in terms of how many agents, staff, and all that kind of stuff, just so people can get an idea?
Yeah, I should probably have this memorized, but I don't.
That's all right. Well, it changes every day, right? I mean, you're probably adding in, some agents leave, some agents come. So
it's funny you say that. Actually, I was just working on not onboarding, but I don't know what the correct term is, deboarding an agent.
Yeah, we call it offboarding.
Offboarding, there you go.
Yeah.
Just today, she was with us for a year, and she wants to become an appraiser and just do something a little bit different. So, amicable ending. But yes, it's always changing. I mean, that's the one constant I can tell you is that it always will be. But basically, I'm like I don't know what, I hate using titles, but I guess CEO or whatever you want to call it. Mm-hmm. But basically, I'm just the chief vision center, and I have an operations manager who is also has a minority interest in the team. Mm-hmm. I also have an outsourced marketing person. I have a VA in the Philippines that supports us. We have a transaction coordinator. We have a listing manager who also is our general admin for the office. She's the rock star, gets the glue and keeps it all together for us. We had 11 agents. Now we have 10 agents. Mm-hmm. And we have a bookkeeper, a full-time bookkeeper. And I think I touched on anybody. And in case anybody on the team is watching and I didn't mention you, I apologize. Yeah, we have about 21 people total.
And that all functions to sell somewhere around 350 houses a year, somewhere in that vicinity?
Somewhere in that vicinity, yep.
Cool. So for people who are looking at that like, wow, I'm struggling to get to 5 or 10 or 15 transactions or 20 transactions, what does it look like? What did it look like for you from going from an individual producer to hiring even your first agent and starting to build your team? What did that look like?
Well, it's funny. I got into the real estate business on accident, and I stayed in it far too long without trying to build a team. Mm-hmm. So in 2008, I got my license. I had a friend who I worked in the mortgage business prior to that, and he was a manager and switched over to an REO department for a subprime lender and called me and said, "Hey, will you get your license? I want you to sell some homes for me in Maryland." I was like, "Yeah, okay. I have nothing really going on. The world's ending. Looks like the financial crisis of the next Great Depression or whatever." So I decided to get my license when nobody wants to buy homes. Sounds like a good idea.
Yep.
And basically worked hard from there and got a bunch of bank relationships. Then hired an admin assistant, and then basically grew another level. And then was too busy and hired another person. And
was it second hire also an admin?
Yeah. So I mean, I call them admins, but at the size that we were doing about 120 homes a year is what we're selling from about 2000, probably about 2010 through 13. That's about what it is, about 120, 150 homes a year.
Yep.
Predominantly 80-90% bank owned. And anybody who has listed or sold a bank foreclosure, it's just very labor intensive, but it's still part of what we do. There's just a lot between, being the preservation, just paying the bills to the bank, doing all the stuff that we have to do. And, it was basically started getting divided out, into silos. So Kathy, who was the second person that came on, it seemed like a natural fit to interact with the agents and kind of handle the liaison between the banks and stuff like that. So we started to really compartmentalize stuff and really, divvy up how we were doing it. The problem was I built it 100% around myself. So I was like the point person, or I was the cog in the wheel that like everything turned around. So I couldn't escape it. I was working 80 hours a week. Oh, I'm sorry. We also have a runner. I knew I forgot somebody. That was the next hire. Then I hired somebody to go out into the field and do the field work so I could sit at the desk. And that was fine, but I pretty much cleared my own glass ceiling. So I had to reevaluate who, how, and why I was doing things. And about that time, I just happened to work at Keller Williams. I never really plugged into a lot of their information, technology, whatever you want to call it. And I had a mentor that kind of walked along and started having conversations with me. And at the same time, I picked up and read the Millionaire Real Estate Agent book, and it really called out to me like, okay, I'm going to turn this into a business or I'm getting out of it. But the in-between stuff just didn't work for me anymore. I didn't want to go down that path or road anymore. So that was pretty
What
much,
was the turning point? Was there anything in your life? Like I know for me, my turning point was when I had my first kid. I had my daughter. And that I was actually fine with working 80 to 100 hours a week. And then she came along and I was like,
yeah.
I get to figure out a way to get a little bit more time back. Was there any specific turning point for you where you said, I don't want to be a one-man operation anymore?
Yeah, so, all the thoughts are buzzing. I'm actually online looking at businesses to buy, like true businesses or to start up or franchise or whatever else it may be. So by nature, my dad was an entrepreneur and stuff like that. Like I just got in and bought myself a job. So I just was drowning in it and it wasn't making me happy. I wasn't fulfilled, lost my passion for it in some respects, meaning it was just a grind. Um, so really what happened, I have three kids. I have one that was born in 2005, one in 2008, as I was making this transition. So I had to work hard. My wife wanted to stay at home. God bless her, she supported us in the business and did all the grunt work, working with the books and stuff like that in the early stages of this. So she was an integral part to making it happen, but she wanted to be at home with the kids. So I was just forced like, okay, I'll work 80, 90 hours a week, whatever it takes. But eventually you wake up. My dad passed away in 2011 at 62. And honestly, it was a huge awakening. It was just like, man, life's too short for this stuff. Does it really matter? Like what are we doing and why are we doing it? So that was one of the bigger turning points. And then when I had my third kid, I was like, okay, enough's enough. Kids are growing older, asking why I work so much. Why am I gone? Why can't I be around on weekends? So those are pretty much the turning points that were kind of happening all at the same time.
So let's back up for a second. So you were pretty busy at that point. You had a lot of deals going on. How were you getting, what was the lead generation mechanism? You said a lot of it was REO. For those people who aren't unfamiliar with that process, what is the process for getting, REO listings for the typical agent?
Yeah, so that's business to business, right? So I'm calling somebody who can sell multiples, or I can sell multiples for. Then it's just performance based. So it was really light on lead generation. It was just um, relationship management more than anything else. So I would get in and we just service the crap out of it, and we kill them with kindness and make sure we're on time with everything, and the properties would just keep showing up. So getting your foot in the door is the hardest part. I had that. My friend Glenn, who I said switched over, I was blessed enough that he made a phone call to me and asked me to become an agent. And then from that, I was able to use and springboard into other things.
So if somebody's looking to get their foot in the door with REOs, what would you recommend? What general advice, or is it just really, really tough as of today? I mean,
The first thing I would recommend is don't do it.
Why is that? Because I think a lot of people don't understand the business of REOs for real estate agents. They think it's a guaranteed listing. You're going to sell it automatically. Tell us some of the reasons why you don't think it's a good business model.
It's a grind. You have to do a tremendous volume of it to make it make sense. Everything from our commissions are usually anywhere from 2 to 2.5%. So we work on reduced commissions. But one of the reasons we have a full-time bookkeeper is that we actually have to pay the bills on behalf of the bank. Everything from the renovation to the lawn cuts to the water bills to the delinquent tax liens to whatever. We become, by default, their clearinghouse for that kind of stuff. So we give them interest-free loans, which is part of what we do and what we sign up for. But I generally have to have about a $30,000 or $40,000, and it's about 40 right now, slush fund that kind of sits there that we just roll money in and out. And it's upwards of 200 plus checks a month, utility bills and you name it. It's a grind and a process. So between all the field work, having to have all that stuff, working on reduced commissions, you have to do a lot of it or just do it all yourself. And either way, it's not a really good way of doing it. Now, with that being said, I really do enjoy the business and I like it. I'm also a layer removed from it. I'm still interacting with asset managers and fires, and I know what's going on with all the properties, but it's no longer 100% built around myself where everything flows through me. It's kind of everything's around me. And I just oversee the bigger picture of what's going on and then get involved where I have to. So the scaling of that process is probably the more difficult part of it. So getting in without any experience, if you don't have any, is a difficult chore because you have to build a resume. At this point, a lot of people have done a lot of it. And if you don't have that resume built, the opportunity for you to get a chance is probably um, an uphill battle.
Yep. So I think with real estate, the biggest thing that I've, learned over the course of the years is that you want to go with the tide instead of against the tide. And so, I think right now trying to get into the REO business is tough because of all the things you just mentioned, in addition to the fact there's not that many REOs anyways.
Yeah.
So you've got a lot of people fighting over them that already have relationships that probably want more as it is. So for somebody new getting in, and to me, there's a lot of easier ways to get leads and a lot of easier ways to make money as of today, as of 2017. So what percentage of your business is still bank owned?
Right now, it's about 20 to 25%.
Okay, so it's fractional at this point. It really isn't the driver of your business.
No, it drives in some respects, meaning like there's still components of our business that are built around it. We usually have anywhere from, well, we have about 80 properties in inventory between shadow inventory, what's on the market. But what's active on the market, we usually have about 10 to 20, depending on when it is, which drives a lot of investor interest, which drives a lot of buyer leads and all that kind of stuff. So we function in it. And to be honest with you, at some point, it looks like, when the market changes that it will come back a bit. Who knows how much and what that'll look like.
Mm-hmm.
But also having it scaled, built, and sitting there, ready for like whatever might come next, it's easier for us to function in it and drive the leads and monetize it and stuff like that. So, I think that we've done a pretty decent job with it here where we are. And you kind of alluded to it before when you asked about lead generation. I'm one of the anomalies where I never picked up a phone and called it FISBO or expired, because by the time I got to the point where I decided to build a team, I had revenue coming in from one side of the business that I could just invest into other portions of the business. And pretty much right off the bat, I was able to bring in agents, bring in an ISA, launch marketing, teach them how to do it, learn it, my process, all that kind of stuff. So leading with revenue and not taking it all and putting in my pocket and reinvesting in the business is probably one of the smarter things I did.
So in the beginning, you bulked up on some administrative help. And then when did you take your first agent on, and what was the value proposition for that agent to join your team?
So I always had leads, right? It's funny. So with REO, they were just a distraction for a long time. Like, yeah, I know everybody's a cash buyer, everybody's a player, everybody wants whatever. So I just kind of like just distanced myself from it other than, functioning in it. But without any purpose, somewhere in 2011 or 12 or 13, a guy approached me and said, hey, I'd like to join your team. I'm like, sure, cool. We'll just have you answer the phones, and whatever you do, you do. So without any clear purpose, that kind of moseyed along, and there was one or two guys like that just kind of, wanted to answer phones and do whatever they did. We didn't really gain any traction with it until I got very purposeful and decided, and this was in 2014, that we were going to hire several agents and build a team. And it really was basically 0 agents to 5 with an ISA supporting them, just kind of built it out from the get-go and just decided, I don't know if it was smart or not, but that we just take the revenue and push it in with the hope and the faith that what we're doing, we're going to learn and get better with and grow.
So I think the one thing that you hit on that's hugely important, like there's all this talk about building teams. Like everybody wants to build a team. But at the end of the day, you've got to provide value to that team. And the value typically for the team leader is going to be leads. Like the top producer and what you had, and I've got the same thing. So I fix and flip homes. So the day that I buy a property to fix and flip it, a sign goes in the yard. And just like you, when you had those REO properties, you still have those REO properties. Everybody's calling you on them. They were probably annoyances to you at the time, right? You actually didn't want to talk to those people because they were getting in the way of your day-to-day activity.
That's correct.
Same thing with us. We put a sign in the ground and be like, oh man, I don't even want to take this phone call. But those leads are very valuable to other people, especially if they're just starting to get into the business. So you talked about you had 2 people that were kind of working the leads, but they didn't really gain any traction. I had the same exact thing with the people who were taking my sign calls and stuff like that. What I realized quickly is you've really got to train people on how to convert leads, or else you're not going to get anywhere. So when you decided to get purposeful in 2014, what changed at that point?
Well, I think two things, and you're touching on both of them in excuse me, in different ways. Sorry, I have a cold. The
That's all right. It's December, right? If you don't have a
Yeah,
cold, I mean, come on.
I have 3 kids. I have 3 germ factories running
I
around.
get 3 kids too. Same deal. Same deal.
And my daughter's home right now. I probably should be, but either way.
That's all right. You got to talk to me. It's more important.
Yeah, exactly. So give back and, create content and all that kind of stuff. So, but, more importantly, the value proposition you touched on, decide what it is. Now, we had an idea and it's morphed over time, but I can clearly tell you what our value proposition is for agents. As soon as I'm talking to an agent in recruiting, if it's 100% about, if all they're focused on is commission splits, then they're not going to buy into what the team and the value is, because it's not about finding the greatest split. What it is about is we want people that know and understand and want a better way of life in real estate. And this really revolves around the fact that we will do the majority of lead generation. We'll scrub it out. We have, excuse me, what's now a outsourced ISA department that scrubs everything out. We use Boomtown. We have a best in class CRM.
Yep.
We go through all the different stages of it that we support. They don't have to do any of the transaction management. It's really, what do you love to do? If you're passionate about getting in homes, showing people homes, listing their houses for sale, helping people, giving back, all that kind of stuff. Because when you're an agent, you basically have like 10 to 12 different hats. You got to marketing, you got to do bookkeeping, run a business, keep the lights on, the whole 9 yards. You basically say, look, you come in and you focus on sales. We'll take care of the rest of it, And that all obviously comes at a cost. And we do put real dollars, into play in marketing. I mean, we're spending upwards of $10,000 a month to generate leads. So it's not like we're just playing house. We're not playing team. We're not playing business. We are actually in business, working on it every day. For the last 2 hours before I got on with you, I was integrating BombBomb into our drip campaigns, trying to figure out and tinker with it, how we're going to take video and put it into all the different places that we're doing things. So it's just every day focusing on a bigger picture and a bigger why. Like, what's my purpose in the business? Where am I getting to? As I'm extracting myself out of the day-to-day grind of it, I have to be really cognizant of my time and what it's spent towards. And I'm the steward of, there's 20 different families that feed off this business. And I don't mean that in a bad way. It's actually a great way. Is that, I have a huge responsibility to be able to grow this business to the next level, not only to support my family, but all the people that have trusted me and come to work with us.
Mm-hmm. So I think one of the things that, you talk about value proposition and, why would an agent join a team, and about the split and all that kind of stuff. We're in a very, very interesting industry, because essentially you can go out in 2 weeks, you can get your real estate license, and you can pretty much do whatever the hell you want, which is kind of nice because, a lot of us want that freedom, want that flexibility. But the problem is that most agents fail out of the business in year one. And they fail out of the business in year one because there's so many different elements to juggle. So basically what you're giving them, you're not giving them a job, but you're kind of giving them a blend a little bit, because you're giving them all of the tools, resources, and things that they can do to make money right out of the gate, with the ability to be in real estate. And I'm sure obviously they can do all their transactions on their own and stuff like that. But you're able to get them money in the door a lot faster than they would be able to get money in the door on their own.
Yeah, the learning curve, should be decreased exponentially, because I'm also the accountability. Like, I'm the sales manager. Just every Tuesday, we have a sales meeting. Every other Tuesday, we have one-on-ones where we go over goals, where we go over, different things that we can improve on. But there's a vast amount of experience and resources here where you will, drastically cut down the amount of time, effort, and energy it is for you to figure it out on your own.
So joining your team, what's realistic in year one? You get somebody who's brand new. They say, Josh, I'll do whatever you want me to do. I'll call whoever you want. I'll prospect whoever you want. I'll work your leads in the way that you want. What's reasonable for them in year one in terms of the volume of transactions, roughly?
Yeah, so every state's different. I can tell you what our team's average price point is just a tick over 200,000, it's around 215,000.
Yep.
So when we build out like metrics, so what we're looking for is a buyer to come on board and slowly, about the first 6 months are the most difficult if you have no experience and no transactions already occurred. Because, in real estate, and this is what I always tell people, it's not like picking up the phone and somebody says, yes, I want to buy, and tomorrow, the product gets shipped, and the following week you get your paycheck. It's, okay, great. Now we have a relationship, and we're entering into a relationship. Now we're going to go look at homes. It could be 2 days, it could be 30 days, but then there's also a 30 to 45-day lag after that to get a settlement.
Yeah.
So you're looking at, best case scenario, getting a paycheck, probably in the second to third month. And then as you're building your pipeline out, you're really kind of getting to month 4, 5, or 6 before you're getting consistency. So how fast somebody can get through that phase dictates all of it. But what we really look for is a minimum of 2 transactions for what equates to a little over 400,000. If somebody hits 2 transactions and 400,000, which is an average price of 200,000, based on commission splits, they'll earn about $65,000. So that's basically the team minimum, meaning that's what we're going for. These aren't crazy far-flung goals where, like you're shooting for the stars. This is like, come in, you work, you're going to have, hours of lead generation or regeneration, we call it. It's actually just working the leads in proper manner based on us scrubbing them out and giving them over to you. And from that, if you're really purposeful and focused, and probably the hardest thing for agents to overcome is the ability to time block and make sure that you focus on that activity before anything else. Because human nature says we get a couple of transactions going on, and all of a sudden your focus is more on getting those to closing than it is to keep your pipeline full.
Yeah.
Trying to get to and mentor people through that process so they understand that you have to really do both at a high level. With support, meaning you have to let go. Like, okay, you got to show up to home inspection, but we really have a rock star transaction coordinator who will handle most everything else from there on. Get back to work, focus on being a salesperson. That is really the value proposition that we're kind of saying. So long-winded story, basically $65,000 your first year is probably a good bet. Depending, you could get up to 100,000. We've never really had somebody like go much higher than that, because if you're looking at somebody, there's a learning curve going on. There's a pipeline building. Second year, I think that if you're not making $100,000, that, basically you have to evaluate, are you working properly? Are you doing the right things? Are you truly giving 40 hours a week effort? Focused effort, right? And then some introspection to say, okay, what am I bringing to the table that's any different than anyone else?
So all the numbers you're talking about is people hitting 40 hours a week, right?
Yeah, I mean, look, what we want is 10 hours lead generation, regeneration, and then 30 hours a week, 40 hours, whatever it is, however good you are, how many houses you're showing or going on listing appointments or whatever side of the business you might be in, really focusing that effort. So you're condensing things that happen.
So the 10 hours, let's talk about that for a second. Is that them on the dialer? Is that them just working buyer leads? What does that typically look like? Like, what is your recommendation? You're wanting your business on your team.
Yeah, so always work your sphere, right? So it's the easiest thing you can get. You call your Aunt Susie and see if, excuse me, they're looking to buy or sell, or that, if they have any friends or family that are looking to buy or sell, right? So that's one of the things you can always do on a weekly basis. But after that, we give our agents, so we generate about 400, little over 400 internet leads a month. We also generate about 300 phone calls total. Split out from signs and all that stuff, it's probably about 200. They all have opportunity. They all take shifts working the phones and answering the phones. And this is, the ability to, in a live setting, get somebody who has a need and interest, calling instead of, internet where they can hide behind a veil of secrecy and all that stuff.
Yeah.
So it's great. We get a lot of conversions from that. We break it out into shifts. But after that, basically we have Rockerbox, which is out in Texas. They scrub out all our leads for us. 7 days a week, 9 to 9. It's an outsourced ISA department that we're using right now, and they're doing a good job. But of those 400 leads,
how does that work? So a lead comes in, they call it, they text it. What does that process look like?
So if they're in, I believe Waco, Texas. So they're near not UT. They're near Texas A&M University.
Yep.
So they have a lot of college kids. I think 20 of them that come in 4-hour shifts, and they all follow the same protocol. A lead comes in, they have to be contacted by phone, by email, by text within 5 minutes.
Hmm.
And then they follow a protocol after that for the first 14 days, how, X number of phone calls, X number of emails, X number of whatever, till someone raises their hand and they get in touch with them and they're able to say, okay, I'm ready, willing, and able to buy. They go through a script. Then they transfer it back to one of our agents in rotation. The agents then take it from there and say, hey, we know you've spoken to our client care department. My name is George or whatever, and I'm here to help you. What can I do to help you? And there's some background notes you can see in our CRM and stuff like that. So
So a buyer lead comes in, an internet buyer lead comes into your company. Your agents don't touch it until it's been scrubbed. Is that correct?
that's correct. Yep. It's part of our value proposition.
That is awesome. And honestly, I just took that note down. I'm going to be definitely looking into this as soon as we get off the phone, because I've got all my agents working those leads, and it's a grind. I mean, it's a grind to work buyer leads. Zillow and Trulia and Realtor.com, they all push how great their leads are. But the reality is it takes a lot of time, effort, and energy just to figure out who's real and who's not. And then once you figure out who's real, it could be the sixth or seventh or eighth phone call before you get to that point, right?
Right. So, part of that value proposition you're talking about. So what Rockerbox is able to do, because they do it at a higher level than our agents ever will. And that's not a knock on our agents. It's what their full-time job is. It's their focus. Yeah. They're doing it at a higher level. So they're turning back around 25 to 30% of leads. So about 120 to 150 leads are coming back to our agents. This is just buyer leads. Well, no, I'm sorry. It's seller leads and buyer leads. But
so they work your seller leads too?
Well, here's what's interesting. Well, let me finish that, and I'll get to that. Is that we're seeing a lot more seller leads come from the internet leads now than we ever have before. It's because they're doing proper scripting. Do you have a house to sell? But they're scripted. When I say scripted, I mean they are like, this is how it works.
That's what I want. I want robots.
Yeah.
I don't want humans. Humans make mistakes.
Right. So these are human robots, right, with AI. But the best part is they're here in America, so they don't have, Filipino accents and all that stuff. So people think they're dealing with somebody that could be, really working here.
Yeah.
And with that, what's happening is with them being so well scripted, we're actually seeing our internet leads from Zillow on the seller side go up from maybe 5 a month to around 20 to 25 a month. So we've had like 5 times the return on that. And what's really happening though is the value proposition is basically this. And I know what it's like to see an agent burn out, right? So if we're really good at lead conversion, we will convert 5% of the internet leads that come in. Now, if we do that, we'll be on a stage somewhere teaching how you do it, all that kind of stuff. But when you really think about it, you take your agents and you put them in a situation of every day following up with 95 of those 100 people that will never go anywhere. There's a ton of effort and focus and draining energy that's put into that for your salespeople. So part of our value proposition is saying, we're going to strip it out. Now when we give it to you, we're going to give you 20, 25, 30% of them, but they will have raised their hand in some level serious. Now you have to get serious about staying in contact with them and, maximizing, squeezing all the juice you can possibly squeeze out of it. Mm-hmm. That's pretty much the gist of it, it's worked pretty well. There's obviously pluses and minuses to all kinds of different things. They don't know
when they hand it over, is it a live transfer? Is it call this person tomorrow type of appointment? How does that work exactly?
It's a transfer back in Boomtown. So they instantly go back and they transfer the lead over. Mm-hmm. We're working on a process to have them make a phone call into a number that will route out to.
That's awesome.
Our agents as a whole, whoever picks up will be the one that gets it.
So Shark Tank style?
Yeah, exactly, right. Are you a Boomtown?
I'm not actually. I use Follow Up Boss.
Oh, Follow Up Boss.
Really, really good things about Boomtown. They've got some functionalities the Follow Up Boss does not have. So
I know both systems very well. We used Follow Up Boss before we used Boomtown. So.
Yeah, so I'm like, the biggest problem I have, I've got about 200 agents. And to switch 200 people from one CRM to another would be a nightmare. And that's actually my biggest holdup for myself personally. But so for Rockerbox, what are we talking about like on a month-to-month basis? I see here there's like 200 registrations. Like what are we talking about for money?
So they go in tiers. If you're at 100, you're at 200, you're at 300, 400. The price goes, I don't know, 1,500, 2,000. I don't want to speak on their behalf. It's something like that, 2,500, 3,000, 3,500, depending on the number of leads they're working. It's interesting that Rockerbox only works with people that work in Boomtown, though, because they only know one platform, but they know it really, really well. So they don't want to be the jack of all to everybody. They want to say, okay, great. We know and we understand we've mastered Boomtown and what it offers and how we get in contact with clients and how we engage with them and all that kind of stuff. So, again, they focused on their one thing in business, and that's what they work on doing at a high level.
You just made me very, very sad.
Well, we can have an offline conversation. I'm actually on an agent advisory board for Boomtown, so I know Boomtown really well, and I can speak to you about the differences between follow-up boss, not to recruit or whatever. It doesn't serve me any purpose or any good, but I can at least offer that to you to kind of talk to you about what they do and how they do it.
So
what difference it can make for your team, especially of that size.
So for your agents and for people that are looking to build a team, you want to think about all the stuff Josh is talking about, all the value he's giving to his agents. So the thing that I see a lot of times with teams is someone wants to build a team and they just think about how somebody else is going to basically earn them a commission for them doing almost nothing. So if you think about the value propositions, everything that all the systems that Josh has set up for his agents in order for his agents to make more money. So at the end of the day, if you're going to build a team, it's going to be a win-win proposition. You both have to make more money. So I'm sure, your splits are going to be less, but at the end of the day, for a lot of agents, they can plug into your systems and they'll actually make more money regardless of the split differential.
Yeah, we also talk about quality of life, and that's more important than any amount of money, right? So they go hand in hand. And what we can do will also give back to the quality of life. You're not working as much. You're not working in different things. You don't have to focus on stuff that may be a distraction to you. And when you really get down to it, there's probably only 20% of the people in the country that are anywhere near qualified to actually run a business, right? Just by natural, like if you believe in disc profiling or whatever else that might be that you kind of focus your attention on, which we do, that not everybody's qualified to run a business. That's okay. Just know and understand what your superpowers are and just go and focus on it. For me, I really enjoy the marketing and the business side of stuff and the growth and everything else. That's my passion. That's what I love to do. I'm re-energized by real estate by growing a team. Now, what I'm also excited about is, where do we go from here? A lot of people would be, oh, well, that's a great business, And for me, it's about building it bigger than myself. Like if you notice, we're the MD Home team. It's not the Josh Mente team. I also, either just by nature did this or just inherently knew to do this. But when we get leads come in, I generate leads, right? I don't take any of them, zero. You have to focus on one or the other, right? If you want to be an agent, build the rest of it around you. Be the agent. It's cool. That's one way you can do it. Just understand what you want out of it, because if you're doing all this lead generation and you're just trying to take all the stuff for yourself and, hand off some crumbs to the people that are around you, you're not being an effective and true leader for those people. It's fine to build your business that way. Just know and understand what you are, right? So if you love being a listing agent, that's it. Like build the buyer team around you, build the business around you, build an operations manager, have somebody just set appointments and you just go and sit in people's living room all day and you kill it and you're happy. Just do it. Whatever it is, decide what is it that I love about this business and I'm going to build the rest of the business around me.
So let's sit on that for a second. So you talked about, because again, the word teams is really a buzzword. You talked about different types of teams. So you talked about the type of team you have, which is essentially you're a business owner and you're doing the day-to-day processes and systems and basically orchestrating. Then you have somebody who just wants to be a kick-ass listing agent and doesn't want to work with buyers. So if you're a kick-ass listing agent, you've got tons of listings, you're going to have tons of buyer leads. So you're going to have to build a really nice buyer team around you. Have you seen any other sorts of arrangements that have worked on the team structures?
Sure. I think that really when you get down to it, there's a group, right? So you have a bunch of high-powered agents who get together and have a collective resource. I would call that more of a group. So that would be like four $10 million producers or whatever you want to call it, say we need a centralized admin, centralized marketing. We all come together, we can kick in a couple bucks, and you know what, we get everything that we need, and we do our own business in our own silos. That's one way. I think the true team approach is like just the true business approach. I mean, what you're trying to do is build something sustainable well beyond you. Like, this isn't built around me. Like, when I say team, I truly mean like a business, like in my definition of it, which is 100%. When I get this right, I know that if well, the saying goes, if I'm here, it runs better, but doesn't need me here to run, right? So like, I know I've achieved everything I want to achieve when I could disappear for a month if I chose to do so, or hire a CEO and disappear permanently and have somebody else just run it, you know?
So where do you see yourself a year from now, 5 years from now, 10 years from now? I know as a business owner myself, it's always a moving target, right? So you say, oh, you know, I want this, and then maybe you don't like, you know, the way that something's going, you change, you know, direction a little bit. But like, as of today, where do you see yourself, say, in 3 years?
You know, very interesting. So really, I have a flipping business that we're growing and scaling right now. So, you know, I was doing 10 to 20 a year as a side hustle for, I don't know, the better part of the last 8 years or so. Now we're getting purposeful between, you know, launching direct mail marketing behind it and hiring and growing and, you know, getting systems and all that kind of stuff. So the answer to your question is however fast we can do that and what those opportunities lead for, because they each feed each other. If we get to a point where those two businesses are up and growing, then it's probably one of three new businesses, right? Which is a construction team. It's a property management company, depending on the amount of rental properties we amass in a portfolio, or something else that we haven't even thought of, a marketing company, a coaching company, or whatever that might be. At the end of the day, I envision within a 5-year period of having anywhere from 3 to 5 businesses running concurrently, and me sitting on the top as, like I said, I don't like titles, but to put it in that frame of context, as CEO, somebody who's just focused on the bigger picture of all of it and doing all those kind of things.
One thing we talked about before we jumped on live was that, you know, more real estate agents should really think about investing. And so I'm a real estate investor by trade. So I do about 100 fix and flips a year in the Boston market. I built my brokerage up to 200 people basically on the back of my investing business. And so you talked a little bit about how they feed into one another. At least half of the listings in my office come from motivated seller marketing. And so I'm sure you've already seen this. You send out a mailer, you get somebody who's interested, and, you know, a lot of times they want retail. And as of, you know, today, December 2017, it's a really, really hot seller market. So you've got to have the ability, to me, like the quote I have behind my wall is the person, what exactly is it? Let's just see if I can tilt it up for you. All right. So ultimately, the business that can spend the most amount of money to acquire a customer wins. And to me, what that means ultimately is that if I can maximize my return on all my marketing, I can outspend my competition. So I spent a little bit over $1.2 million this year in motivated seller marketing, and I'm probably going to go 1.5, 1.6 next year. And I can outspend my competition because I capitalize on my leads in both ways. So I can both make money on my fix and flips, I can buy them as rentals, and I can list the properties depending upon the opportunity that's put in front of me. And so we train our sales team locally to identify those opportunities. And we have a specific sales process for our sales agents to go through when they're out to help determine, is this a retail seller? Is this a cash seller? And then how do you take somebody that responded to motivated seller marketing and convert them into a listing without pissing them off?
Right.
I don't know if have you done any of that yet? Yeah.
Absolutely. Yep. It's just scripting, right? So
it's all
when you come from a position of giving, like, we're here to help you. We can help you. Look, if you really get down to it, when we're talking about this, you know, like when we go out on these appointments, you know, if it isn't something that can or makes sense to be bought, that can truly be fixed up and add value to and be resold, as we don't do any wholesaling or anything like that. It's truly value add propositions. It's rental portfolio. Sometimes it makes sense there. And if not, it's helping people achieve whatever it is they're trying to do. And from that, we have a database of investors that we can hold investor open houses. Like, great, if you want to maximize return, we can. And your property's not in the best shape, we have contacts with enough people that can do that.
Yep.
As well as put the house on the market. We can even advise you how to fix it up yourself and do it. Like, we can do anything that you want to do. It's really, we come from a giving position. What can we do to help you? We're here. It's a solution-based company. We have many different solutions. People who are estate sales. We have probate attorneys and moving trucks and all kinds of different. What do you need help with? You need to clear out the property. Either leave it all behind, or we'll help you get it out if it's important to you. So really, just coming from a place of giving and trying to understand everyone's situation and what works best. Instead of trying to shove a round peg in a square hole, try and really put their interest first and see what you can do with it.
Well, I think at the end of the day, the seller always does what's in their best interest anyways.
Yes.
So you can't force them to sell to you at a discount because that's what you want, because it doesn't matter. Because if you try to force them to sell to you at a discount, what they're going to do is the next person they're going to bring in a real estate agent who's going to advise them to list the property, and then they're going to list the property. But if you're able to get back, like you said, thinking about giving, what's in the best interest of the seller, and then you provide them with the solution to the need that they have, they're going to want to work with you, whether they want to sell to an investor, whether they want to list, whether they want to try to do an investor open house, or any mix of the three.
Yep.
So kind of to wrap up on your past. So you went from an individual agent who had an REO business, who hired some admin, who eventually decided to leverage off of the leads you were getting, leverage off the buyer leads. You did it by accident. You had a couple agents working your buyer leads. Then you decided to get more purposeful about it. You hired 5 agents. You created a lot of systems so that the agents who are working on your team have a really good value proposition, and so that you can capitalize on all the leads that you have. And now you're getting into investing, which is again going to be another level for you. And going further out from there, who knows what the future will hold. But one thing I think that you hit on a lot is taking advantage of the current opportunities that you have, which is basically what entrepreneurs do. So you're looking at it, you're not specifically saying in 3 years, I want to have a property management company. You're saying maybe I'll have a property management company, or maybe I'll have a coaching business, or maybe I'll ramp up my fix and flip business. Essentially, you're taking what the market can give you, which is, I think, again, typically what an entrepreneur will do.
Yeah. Right. So we're not painting ourselves in a corner saying this is the path we're going down. We're letting that be dictated some by market circumstances, but also what makes sense for the people and the talent that you have. So my operations manager, as an example, used to own and run 4 franchises of a brokerage. Mm-hmm. So it's in play that we could just open up a brokerage one day. Yeah, it's because it's his skill set. So great, awesome. That's in play. I'm not saying it's going to happen, but it's there, and the seeds are there for 4 or 5 other businesses that feed each other back and forth. So as we become better at recruiting for our team, there's probably some spillover to, well, you don't necessarily have to be on the team, but we also have this brokerage where we're helping teach and mentor people how to be agents and teams. Why don't you come on board and we'll figure this out?
One other thing I want to hit on before we wrap up. So you did mention, kind of taking what the market gives to you in terms of where the market's going. So what's your take on that? I mean, we're obviously either at the top or we're getting close to the top. How far do you think we're away from a correction, and what do you think that's going to look like?
Well, I don't have a crystal ball, right?
Nobody does.
But what I do have is the wisdom experience of going through 2008 and leading up to it, actually, that this starting to smell and feel like it. So the perfect storm happened at that point in time. What this is, I don't know. But what I can tell you is that I feel like this market's been built off false pretenses. And by that, I mean, and it's market specific. Boston's different than, Birmingham, Alabama, and whatever.
Yep. But
the one common theme is historically low interest rates. Like when I say historically low, I mean obscenely low, like free money low.
People are getting used to
correct.
People think this is normal.
This is normal, right?
Yeah.
So they forget the pain is far enough in a rear view mirror that people forget about what that actually was. Now, if you think about like this from an affordability aspect, a 3.5% interest rate, you can only afford $1,200 a month in payment. I don't know what it is, but let's just say you can buy a $300,000 house. Well, when interest rates go to 6.5% or 7%, which is still a great rate, that affordability starts to plummet. Now, what happens is somebody can still only afford $1,200 because wages have not increased.
Mm-hmm.
The difference is that $1,200 in spending value on a monthly basis only buys you a $225,000 house.
Mm-hmm.
So now you've created this, market that goes like this, and when you have rates going like this, the affordability just plummets and drops. So I think you're going to see a compression of values different in every market based on wages and other, factors and jobs and recession and, like all that kind of stuff. And I don't know that it'll be like it was, but I think it's something, right? And I think that what they don't know how to do is raise interest rates without crashing the market. So if they spike them, I think that it sends the market into free fall. But I don't think that that's what they're going to do. I just don't know what their plan is. I have ideas. They're kind of alluding to it. They want to, bring them up slightly over time. I don't know. What I do know is that we can't sustain year-over-year growth like this, where you have double-digit growth year-over-year. What I do know, and I'm in my 40s now, I've watched the stock market go up and go down. I've watched the metal market go up and go down. I've watched the real estate market go up and go down. When you have hyper growth like this, it's usually followed by a correction on the other side of some level.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I know.
So a follow-up to that would be, a lot of times how bad the crash is in direct proportion to how crazy things got before it. So how does this compare? How does 2017 going into 2018 compare to 03, 04, 05 in your opinion?
It's similar. It's very similar, honestly. You're seeing the fever pitch. You're seeing the multiple offers. You're seeing the hysteria. You're seeing investors throwing dumb money in, like buying stuff at crazy numbers that don't make any sense. That you're seeing investors buy this stuff and it appreciates well enough over a 3 to 6 month period that they think they're doing all right, but this appreciation is the only thing that's saving them. I think that you're seeing low inventory levels, create all this kind of stuff. It just feels like it. I don't know how else to explain it. It's just a feel thing. It just really reminds me of it. When I see it, there's a story that goes, and I forget who it was. It might be Andrew Carnegie or somebody like that, was on Wall Street, 1929, somewhere in October. He goes and gets his shoe shined. The shoe shine guy asks him, "What do you do for a living?" He said, "Well, I work on the market." "Oh, great. I got a stock tip for you," is what the shoe shine guy says. He left getting his shoes shined, walked into the market and sold every position he had. And the reason is if the guy that's shining my shoes, not that it's a bad profession or anything like that, but untrained, is offering stock advice, that means it's trickled down to the point where the hysteria is in and the people don't understand it, so the fundamentals aren't right.
Where I feel like that's at right now so much is Bitcoin. And
Yeah.
I don't know if you're following that at all, but like I just posted on my Facebook wall the other day, like if somebody else tells me to buy Bitcoin, I'm gonna lose it. I feel like at least in my lifetime, I've never seen anything like Bitcoin where the average person thinks they're literally going to get rich by investing in it. And I didn't go through, I'm not that young. I'm 35, but I didn't really go through the 90s stock market bubble. I was in high school at that time, so I didn't feel that. But Bitcoin is one of those things I'm just like, man, I can't even believe what's going on right now. What people are saying, what they think is going to happen, that they think right now could possibly be a good time to get in.
Yeah, I don't know much about Bitcoin. That's what I do know.
I don't either. I'm going off that exact principle that you just said. When the person that's shining my shoes is telling me that to buy Bitcoin, I know it's a bad time to buy Bitcoin.
Right, and I'll give you an example. I was in an Uber the other night, coming back from a football game.
Yep.
And the guy driving the Uber says to me, "What do you do for a living?" "I'm in real estate." "Oh, what do you do?" "I have a sales team and I'm a flipping business." "Oh, flipping, yeah, I flip too." And I'm like, God, the flags are everywhere if you're looking for them. Then again, Uber is great. Like, I think at one point in my life, I'm going to do it for fun.
Yeah.
Just like I don't need to make any more money. I'm just going to go out and mess around with people and have fun or whatever.
Yeah.
So none of this is judgmental. But what I'm saying is that, if this is the guy he's house hacking and flipping on the side and he's Ubering during the day, like, okay, that's awesome. And that can work. But what I'm saying is when it's trickled down to that point where unsophisticated investors, everybody's going to learn at some point, are getting into the market. I just see what's happening in the prices that people are paying for homes, and it's out of control. And I'm talking about investors specifically. The margins are so compressed that it literally, anything that hits the MLS, I would just stay away from. Like, it's going to get bid up to a point where somebody's going to is willing to accept taking on the financial risk to make $5,000 or maybe lose. And when the music ends, when there's a blip, when you don't have 5% appreciation in 6 months, like, you're going to start to see those people start to lose their butt.
Well, I don't want to take up any more of your time. I appreciate you jumping on today. Any final words for brand new agents?
I would seriously consider joining a team. And I'm not just saying that because I have one.
I would too, 100%. Yeah.
Because look, you get out there and you get thrown to the wolves. Most brokerages you go to, there's the phone, order some cards, call your sphere, have a good day. This is how you process the contract when you get it. And it's really left to fight and claw and figure it out on your own. I would just consider it. It's not for everybody, and you might be a business person. That's what you want to do.
Well, let me play devil's advocate with that, though. What's the negative of joining a team for a year? Just say,
I don't see it. As long as you join the right one, I don't see the negative in it. You're just going to learn and be immersed in what it is. So if it's just a training academy where you're making money while you're going, fantastic. Treat it like that.
Exactly.
What I would say is that there's several books that are very instrumental to me in my thought process of being an entrepreneur or a business person. One is the E-Myth. The stands for Entrepreneurial Myth. It's Michael Gerber's book. Have you ever read it?
Mm-hmm. It's a great book.
So when you're in it and you're an agent long enough, you know the fable that's being told through it, you will definitely recognize what's going on. Like, I either got to get out or got to figure it out or whatever. And then once you progress to a certain point, then it becomes more about vision setting. And that's where I think Rocket Fuel and Traction, which are booked by Gino Wickman, and they're a pair, they go kind of hand in hand. They really come into play as you're scaling and growing a business. I would read those books. I would read The Millionaire Real Estate Agent. It really talks how you start from being an agent and working your way to 7th level business, which is being not an absentee CEO, but like a 4-hour work week, basically, where you're just, your vision, finance, but not your time. And that's really what I'm after. My big why, understand what your why is. Why are you going to work every day? Why are you in business? For me, it's a race to gain freedom. So I'm trying to build businesses so I can gain freedom back in my life to do what I want, when I want, where I want, and how I want.
Awesome. Well, great advice, and I appreciate you jumping on. How can people reach out to you if they want to learn more about you? Do you have a website? Do you have an email? What's the best way to contact you?
As we are marketers, you will definitely Google my name and you'll find a bunch of different places. To reach me directly, it's josh@themdhometeam.com. Josh@themd, like Maryland, hometeam.com. You can call the main office number, 410-394-9114. I'm on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, not Snapchat. I'm too old for that, but you can find me pretty much anywhere you want to be or you are. I can be reached. So please reach out. I'm more than happy to help anybody with anything.
Awesome. Well, this is Tom Caffarella with the Massachusetts Real Estate Agent Mastermind podcast. Thank you, Josh, for joining us, and we'll see you guys in another couple of weeks.